Well, there is power in the words that we speak, and the questions we ask can leave a lasting impression.
When Michael Phillips was in first grade, his teacher told him 4 words he never forgot. That will never happen. So those words set Michael on a path of helping the hurting.
Michael Phillips is on a mission to transform lives.
My personal passion and heart is for humanity as a whole. My call shows individuals that human lives are redeemable.
And he believes that starts with changing the education system, the same one that once crushed his own dreams.
When I was 6 years old, for career day, I decided to, for my project, emulate Thurgood Marshall. My teacher leaned over to me and told me that I would never be able to be a lawyer, that would never happen. At that time, the only thing I could feel was anger.
Coming up in the inner city schools of Baltimore, Michael was continually told he had no future, despite getting good grades and being a standout athlete.
I was constantly being told I would end up in jail, or I would not amount to anything. For a long time, those words sat on me because they became compounded by the additional words that people would speak of my life.
Michael would prove them wrong and graduated high school with a 4.0 and a full-ride college basketball scholarship. Then, just before his freshman semester, a violent car crash left him so badly injured, it cost him his scholarship.
I literally thought my life was done because I had tied my future and my destiny to making it as an athlete. The emotional trauma and stress of not being able to be a basketball player was extremely overwhelming to me.
Although he still went to school, the depression became too much. Michael dropped out and returned home to Baltimore, where he turned to the only option he thought he had: selling drugs.
As a little kid, when you wanted to see a successful person that looked like you would go down to the corner to the guys who were selling drugs because they looked successful and they looked like they were having fun and they had the cars and they had the clothes. And so this was my only shot then to take matters into my own hands and try to make the best out of a bad hand that I was dealt.
A year later, Michael was on the run from the FBI. Finally, he turned himself in, thinking he'd get a light sentence as a first-time offender. Instead, he was charged with a racketeering crime that carried a minimum of 30 years.
I thought I would spend the rest of my life in jail. I literally thought it was over. This is it. Every word that they said about me has come true. And all I could feel like my first night in jail was a betrayer. I betrayed all of those people, my grandparents, my parents, all of the people who fought for me to have a life. I have failed them.
Then, before his trial started, a judge said he saw potential in Michael, dismissed the charges, and gave him a second chance at college. Later that year, on the floor of his dorm room at Oral Roberts University, Michael surrendered his life to God.
It was almost like a death and a resurrection. And my life was changed ever since.
Michael graduated and went on to be a successful businessman, then pastor in Baltimore for 19 years. Recently, he joined Bishop T.D. Jake's ministry, working to reform the education process so every child's potential can be cultivated.
I like to work at the prevention end, where you're doing all that you can do to prevent a child from ever experiencing some of the things I experienced, right? Regardless of where they live, that community, that district has a high quality school that is supporting that child's potential and future.
Michael is also working to take what's known as the Texas Offenders Reentry Initiative nationwide. Started by the Potter's House Church in Dallas, its goal is to empower ex-offenders to maximize their potential and increase their opportunities for successful reintegration into society.
Is that life disposable or is it redeemable? Are we building a culture of punishment or are we building a culture of possibility? And if it's the latter, then that life that might have went off track, that might have found herself in the wrong lane, should not be disposable, right? We should be able to turn that life around restoratively.
Michael believes that everyone can affect positive change by just being empathetic to people around them.
People are hurting, and one of the ways to heal that hurt is to hear it first. Find out where does it hurt and see what you can do about it, and see how you can help. Prayer goes a long way to say to somebody, I'm praying for you, I really am praying for you, or to stop in that moment and actually pray for them. If you were in their position, what would you do? That's all I'm asking for us to look at people's lives and not go what, but ask why. Not say what's wrong with you, but rather what happened to you. Because when we have that level of empathy, it's gonna make it really hard for all of us to just fall back into what's normal, to fall back into to status quo and to keep looking at society as a it is what it is type of thing. It can get better. It certainly can get better. Absolutely.
Obviously, Michael inspires us, but that was really chilling, Ashley, when he talked about how he was arrested and he thought about all those things people said about him and that what he would not be able to do and what would happen. And he thought, wow, it's true. But see the power of words.
Yeah.
He never forgot all those hurtful things.
Yeah, definitely, man. Gosh, we can. I feel like every one of us, maybe we've had a different, life experience than Michael, but we can all experience just the hurt of words, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And I just think this is such a good reminder for us to watch the words that do come out of our mouths. And listen, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. But it's just a good reminder for us because our words definitely hold weight, no matter what it is, whether it's good or bad, encouraging or discouraging.
And that coupled with another part of his story where he put his identity into, he had worked hard, right? To being an athlete, and he had this plan ahead of him. He thought God had a plan for him, and then wiped out, gone, now who am I? Now what do I do? A lot of people deal with that, right?
Yeah.
And you have to kind of start over in a sense. And what he probably never envisioned what he'd be doing now. He used his pain and the trauma now to help other people, to listen to them first before seeking how to help. Really wonderful stuff.
Yeah, and I love that, he's preaching what we should all be doing. Like when we see people, we should see them as image bearers of God, whether they even know God or not, viewing them as an image bearer of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, seeing them as somebody that Jesus died for, really just allows us to be empathetic and say, no, God has a plan for your life. It allows us to speak those words of encouragement that are uplifting and just reminds us to be empathetic, no matter who it is.
Well, and interesting, too, that judge saw something in Michael, right?
Yeah.
There was something he saw that said he doesn't need additional punishment. Let's set him on a different path. Wonderful story.
Yeah, that's great.